everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome to the channel. I've been gone for a minute. I did my last video a couple months ago and I've just been really busy between the holidays and all this bullshit with work and everything. I'm just busy. I'm busy, okay? But I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. And what better way to get back in the swing of things than talking about Resident Evil Requiem? We had the Video Game Awards, the VGAs, and one of the earlier announcements that they did was Leon is back. That is great to hear. It's great to hear. I was pretty confident that it was just going to be like Grace and like maybe a character we don't care about as like the second character you're going to play as in that game. But we do know now that Leon is back, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. There was actually an interview that happened the day of or the day after the announcement was made with Famitsu, which is it's like a Japanese publication. They did a full interview with the director and a couple of the producers, and they didn't have a translation for it until just recently. I found the translation, or the rough translation of everything. So there's a few things in this we're going to go over, and some of the stuff, like there's like, for instance, when the game takes place, there's a rough translation of what year. It's either 2026 or 2028. Just take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. I do think all of it is full on real. I do think this interview is real. I just want you guys to understand that the translation is a little rough from what the article says or what the person who posted it says. I don't want you to think that it's just fake entirely, because I don't think it's fake. I think it's real, and this was a real interview that took place. Only thing is it's a rough English translation. So I'm going to get back into that. I'm going to get right into it. We're going to start talking a little bit about it. But right before we do everything for me that YouTube needs of you. Subscribe, like, and comment. Most of all, comment. Like, really, like I'm mostly worried. My main purpose of this channel is to talk about the things that I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about a lot of really cool things, such as Resident Evil. And I know there's a lot of Resident Evil fans out there, a lot of really fun, kind-hearted people that want to talk and kind of theorize with me about the game. Do that in the comment section. Let's be nice to each other. Let's have a good time. I can't wait for this game. It comes out in just a couple months, and I'm sure a lot of you have theories as to where the game's going and what direction it's going into. You know, we know now it's a two-character game. It's it's Grace and it's Leon. I keep saying Rose because Rose was one of the main characters of, like, you know, Resident Evil 8 or whatever. But regardless, welcome back. Subscribe, like, comment. Let's talk about this a little bit. All right, I'm going to flip over to a cut of the trailer for Leon's campaign. I'm not going to show the whole trailer or anything. I'm just going to show his portion, just so you guys have a little context as to why I'm a little hyped about this. You know, I didn't want to do the whole trailer because it might be copyright or some shit. So bear with me. I'll be right back, guys. All right, everybody. So here is the trailer snippet that we are going to be mostly talking about in this video. So I'll play that really quick for you guys to have context. Oh, fuck yeah. So there's that. Now we're going to jump into the interview itself. And again, this is a rough translation, so there might be a couple things that are wrong in the end, but I think majority of this is pretty spot on. I mean, it was just a translation. I'm American, guys. I can't pronounce these names at all, so I'm sorry if it's a little disrespectful. Finally talks about Leon's inclusion in Resident Evil 9. Here's the link. This is the actual article. I can't read this language, but, you know, there's some things here that seem to translate pretty well, the 2026 thing. So this is the translation of it, though. I will post a link to this as well in the comment section, and in the description for you guys to check out. So starting from the top here, let me move my webcam for you guys. So notable points: Nakanishi confirms that Leon and Grace are the only two playable characters in the game. I was a little worried before this because I thought maybe Rose was going to make another appearance into another Resident Evil game. I don't know who Rose is. Rose is the daughter of the main character of 7 and 8. She was just a baby well, she's not really in 7, I suppose, but in 8 she is a baby. She's one of the main things that you're trying to find in that game. Later on, they did a DLC that takes place years into the future of her as an adult. She's got like superpowers and shit. Not a fan of that story personally, but I was really worried that this game would be a game that has Grace and Rose, and I was fine with Grace because she's a new character to the series and she's got that grounded feeling to her from the trailer and from like the little, you know, the demo that they've released like footage of. She's a scaredy cat. Like, she's kind of like a coward. She's an FBI agent of sorts, but she doesn't do much when it comes to like field work. She does more like analyst, you know, type of shit. So her being like this like main character is supposed to make us feel like her in a lot of ways, where it's like, I think her portion of the game, and I'm pretty sure they say it in this interview, her portion of the game is going to be very horror focused, while Leon's is going to be more action focused, similar to like Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 4 style when it comes to Grace's and Leon's perspectives, respectively. It's good to know though that Leon is a part of the game, because I do think there's a mix of the fan base. You know what I mean? There's some people that really like the horror aspect only, and then there's some people that really like the Resident Evil 4 style. And I like both. I would prefer a more Resident Evil 4 style because that is my favorite game. But to each his own. To each his own, but it's nice that they're trying to find a balance between the two characters in this one, and they'll confirm that later on as well. Nakanishi states that Grace's section will feel like RE2 remake and Leon's section will feel like RE4 remake. So again, reiterating pretty much what I just said. Nakanishi confirms that the game takes place in 2026, not 2028. This makes Leon about 49 years old, by the way. That makes sense. Majority of Resident Evil games, aside from the remakes, because they are remakes of games that took place in 1998 and 2004 or shit like that, most of the time they take place in the year that they're released. So this being, 30 years later, technically, a lot of people are saying it's 30 years after the original game, which was 1998, which would make it in 2028. It seems in this article that it's confirmed that it was 2026 instead of 2028. So it's roughly 28 years after the Resident Evil 1 events. I don't think it really matters that much, though. I mean, like, it's a difference of 2 years, and they said it was roughly 30 years. So it could still be 2028. But as of right now, it's going to be taking place in 2026. Nakanishi states that there are not two separate campaigns. The player will switch back and forth between Leon and Grace as the story progresses, and sometimes they'll meet and interact. I love that. That reminds me of like Resident Evil 2, how like randomly you if you're playing as Leon, you'd randomly like run into Claire and stuff like that through cutscenes. I love that. I love the idea of playing as two different characters. That's always been something that like kind of pulls me into Resident Evil. I like playing as multiple characters, especially if like the tone either matches or at least like are so different that the game is fun in both ways. I'm really a big fan of like, it seems like this Resident Evil is going to have a big difference between the two characters, whether that's like Leon's able to do more roundhouse kicks and action stuff and Grace is better at like hiding and everything. I'm fine with that. Like if it's balanced and it feels good on both ends, I'm honestly okay with it. It's really no big deal. I kind of am a fan though of like the original way of doing it, where there's like the A and the B scenario, kind of the same thing, kind of like in Resident Evil 1 and OG Resident Evil 2, how like you'd play as Leon, set stuff up for Claire in section 2 or scenario 2, I should say. They've kind of leaned away from doing the scenario thing since the remake came out and everything like that for 2. But I'd love to see that come back in some way, but it seems like they're going to intertwine Leon and Grace's story and they're going to actually like make it feel cohesive in some way. So it's nice to see that. It is kind of weird. I'm wondering if the campaign is going to be super long then, since you're going to be playing as both of them, and they're probably going to have to equal out the time between both of them, but we'll obviously see. Maybe they'll mention it later on. Nakanishi refers to Leon as the strongest character in Resident Evil. Damn, Chris, take a fucking seat. I mean, that makes sense to say that because like if you look in the trailer, like he's using melee weapons, he's using a chainsaw for fuck's sakes, like he's still doing cartwheels and everything. I think when they I don't think they're comparing it to Chris in a way of like, oh, Leon would outbench Chris. He would out rep Chris. I don't think anybody would ever be able to outbench Chris, even the like remake style of Chris, where he's got like the cool like coat on and stuff. I still think he's got more strength than Leon, but Leon as a whole is the strongest character that you've ever been able to play as, is what I think they're trying to say here. So assume that the mechanics of Resident Evil 9 when you're playing as Leon are going to be out of this world, like you've never experienced this in a Resident Evil game before. Nakanishi talks about the story of Pandora's Box and the dual interpretations of Elpis within the story. Elpis, if you didn't watch the trailer, Elpis is kind of the new T-virus, I believe. That's being pushed by the main bad guy. He's trying to bring Elpis back and trying to stir something up with it, same old biohazard, bioweapon bullshit, I'm sure. Then make some cryptic statements about how Leon is carrying with him some secret about Alyssa's death, Alyssa being Grace's mother. Alyssa was a character from the Outbreak games, which were on PS2. They were the online games. It's no spoiler here, but they've already showed it in the trailer. Alyssa does die. We just don't really know how it all happens. We know that she dies and then Grace wakes up kidnapped at this new area that we're playing in. And that secret and her death is directly related to Elpis. In lore, Elpis, not a metaphor. I think his words are very unclear here. See, this is what I mean by some of these translations are a little off sometimes. Like they didn't get the full story of stuff, hoping that the translation kind of smooths out after a couple more days, maybe weeks. We saw in the trailer, a lot of people were kind of talking about it, and I have a picture that I'll probably put up for you guys as well. Leon's neck over here on this side, there is a black kind of stigmatism. If you've seen Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about here. There's just like a black stain on his neck or on his body. We can all pretty much, you know, a lot of people have said, oh, it's just a shadow, but it does look like he's got an infection of some sort. In the game setting, he gets out, like in the trailer, he gets out of his car, his Porsche, and it's raining outside. So like it raining out would explain why he's got gloves and like a full leather jacket on and everything. So you can't see the rest of his skin necessarily, but it does cut in the trailer to a scene of him looking at a computer screen with like a black, like kind of moldy hand on it. I think that might be like what Elpis is doing to people. And I think Leon might have that infection or virus of some sort. And I do have some theories about how I think this game's going to play out as a whole. I'll save that for the end though. That way you guys aren't like, you know, thinking about theories and stuff until we're all done. That way you can skip through it if you really want to. But yeah, I think a lot of what's going to happen with his secret and what he knows, I personally think that he's Grace's dad. And I think he was fucking with Alyssa for a long time, and then she died, and that's why he's back to find a cure. And because Alyssa died, and he's probably trying to find his daughter or some shit like that. But irregardless, like he's got some kind of infection is what I'm thinking, similar to Resident Evil 4, how he's got the plagas and he gets it out of him, obviously, as we all know. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name bad. Nakanishi confirms that Leon and Grace will have equal playtime. So that confirms what we were talking about earlier. I'm not sure what that means for the campaign though. Is this a 10-hour campaign where you play 5 hours each? I'm assuming this is gonna be like a 25 to 30-hour campaign, just because I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of content for each character. You can't put Leon in the game and not have like majority of the game being played as him. It's just people are gonna be upset if they're not playing as Leon for majority of the game. My big concern is how are they gonna balance this out? Like this game, I think that the center of attention here for this game, the main thing that we got to keep an eye out for is how are they gonna balance the two characters out? Not only gameplay wise, but timing in which you play, like how much time you actually have to put into each character to get to the next character in the next chapter. Well, I'm assuming it's going to naturally just go chapter to chapter. You flip between the two characters, but are we going to be playing as Grace and just going, oh, I'm tired of the pacing of Grace, I just want to get back to Leon? Like, how is it going to feel altogether? That's what I'm mostly concerned with here. The person who posted this talks a little bit about them kind of talking about Leon's localization and all that stuff. I'll just read the quote here. It says, he's handsome, isn't he? Not just physically, but his personality. It's kind of just like, you know, Thurston over Leon in a lot of ways. He'll rush straight into danger just to help someone, but then he says things that you wouldn't expect from someone with that face, and you can't help but be charmed by his contrast between his words and his demeanor. It's just pretty much typical Leon. And it's nice to know that like in this game, apparently he's going to be very like charming, like he was in OG Resident Evil 4 in a lot of ways. Because if you played Resident Evil 4 Remake, Leon was fine, but he was a lot more serious and he was a lot more like just about stuff. So it's nice to know that he might not be that aggressive in this one when it comes down to it. He might be a little more lighthearted. We'll see though. I had to localize it because that's the last sentence is a fucking mess and trying to translate directly into English, LOL. Then after that, Kumazawa gives a standard boring, don't worry, you don't have to know his backstory to enjoy the game, PR response. But I do want to point out that he is handsome. Again, not just in appearance, but in personality. He really won't hesitate to make sacrifices for other people, and he's never arrogant about it. He jokes around and his lighthearted demeanor, but there's something deeply passionate beneath the surface. He's skilled in martial arts and incredibly capable. Yeah, again, it seems like there's going to be something big that happens at the end of the game. That's what my theory is going to be. Something big with Leon is going to happen, whether it's like a sacrifice or something. We'll see. Kanishi promises first-person perspective Leon gameplay at the showcase in January. So yeah, if you haven't heard, there is going to be another showcase in January that we're getting of the game, and apparently we're going to be getting a first-person perspective of Leon. I was kind of concerned with that too, because I'm okay with the first-person stuff, but I'm also more of a big fan. I'm a bigger fan of third-person Resident Evil. It's just my thing. I like I said, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game. So when it comes down to it, that's kind of going to be what I'm leaning towards. If you haven't noticed already, if you haven't heard about it, you can pause the game at any time and you can go down to what perspective you want, and it'll recommend what perspective to use for the area of the game that you're in, I believe, or the chapter of the game that you're on. Not sure exactly. That's cool that they give you the perspective change for Leon as well, because I'm kind of concerned because Leon, he does backflips and roundhouse kicks. How are they going to make that look in the perspective of first person? I'm really kind of concerned with it. Is it going to be like shaky? You know, I'm sure that they'll have it like looking really good for the final release, but I'm kind of just concerned with how they're going to make all that look without making us feel sick or something while we're playing, because he does do a lot of like flips and dodges and shit like that. So we'll see. But you know, I'm somebody, I'll probably play the game all the way through third person, play it again all the way through first person, and then if the game's great enough, I'll play it through a third time as both perspectives just fucking around. So we'll see. I'm excited to kind of learn more about the first person for Leon though. Nakanishi yet again emphasizes that his goal was to make Leon as physically attractive as possible. Jesus. Basically admits to making him a DILF. Okay. Kumazawa adds in that Leon's final look was mostly determined by the women who work in the studio. Oh man, that's funny. At least, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's not going to be like, maybe that should tell you that Capcom isn't concerned with like DEI shit. You know, they're just doing whatever the wetties at the fucking, at the studio were thinking. So that's cool, I suppose. Kumazawa says that the Porsche collaboration came about because they designed a car for Leon that ended up looking like a Porsche. So they reached out to the actual Porsche Corporation to see if they wanted to collab. And then Nakanishi says to look forward to the car getting super fucking destroyed in game. Cool. Nothing better than blowing up cars I can't afford. Nakanishi says that the idea of Resident Evil 9 has always been a dual protagonist setup. Old school. Kumazawa says that he loves the way that Leon and Grace's gameplay balance each other out synergistically. The idea is to view Leon's gameplay as a reprieve from Grace's, since hers is pretty much all horror all the time. So I'm assuming Grace's is going to be similar to like Alien Isolation or some shit where you're kind of hiding a lot. And then when you're playing as Leon, you're obviously going to be just like storming through things with a chainsaw apparently. So, you know, that sounds good to me. I mean, again, I'm hoping the hot and cold thing is more so like balanced really well. I hope it like transitions really well into each other. I really don't want to like feel like I'm fatigued playing as Grace all the time. I really don't want to feel fatigued from that. I want to play as both of them. That's kind of my thing. And this is the first time Resident Evil has really like intertwined two stories instead of just making them separate scenarios. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to figure out how they're going to do this. Nakanishi states that Leon is at the peak of his physical strength form in Resident Evil 9, which is a hell of a statement in my opinion when you consider RE4 remake. Yeah, he was pretty nimble in RE4 remake. He was doing a lot of shit. Like he was able to do flips, he was able to do roundhouses. He was pretty much doing everything he did in the OG, but even cooler. With him being 49, 51, something like that years old, that's a lot to ask from a guy, but you know, Leon's a beast. So Nakanishi says that they'll show more of Leon's gameplay in January showcase, and implies that a lot of his mechanics must be context sensitive. My own personal guess is that it'll mix up the follow-up attacks, parries, and counters. Yeah, that's another thing I want to know is if parries are still in the game, because the knife parry was a really cool addition to Resident Evil 4. And now that we have chainsaws apparently in the game, like, you know, you got to have the chainsaw like block or whatever with your knife. The ridiculousness of that was just too much to not have in the next game. Kenichi says that the axe cannot be thrown. That stinks. The axe, if you don't know what he's talking about, there's a part in the trailer where he like yanks a fucking axe out of a zombie's head and then like kind of looks cool as fuck when he wipes the blood away from it. You can't throw the axe, sorry guys. And then he said, I was so happy to see everyone's excitement when Leon was revealed. And that's it. That's everything. We pretty much went through everything and I kind of just told you guys the context of most of it. But all in all, like, let me know what you guys think of this. Like, does this seem pretty legit? Like, this seems pretty legit to me. I mean, it is legit technically, but the translation seems pretty spot on. It seems like it's fine. I don't read Japanese, so I can't say if it's spot on, but it seems like this is gaining some traction. People are talking about it a lot more. There's still people that still think the game takes place in 2028, which means people probably haven't seen this part of this article yet. But as of right now, that doesn't really matter all that much. It's really just the year the game takes place. But yeah, guys, I'm super excited for this. Like, I really am. I can't wait to play through this game with you guys, and I just can't wait to see what this game holds in store for us, because honestly, I'm gonna flip over the trailer. Like, we should just flip to the trailer right now. But yeah, no, seriously guys, let me know what you guys think of this, because I'm super excited for this. This game to me looks like it's shaping out to be exactly what I was looking forward to when it comes to the gothic tone, the horror elements, and then obviously having Leon in the game just makes me pretty happy. Not only is he my favorite character in the series, but he also is just, you know, his gameplay is always really fun. It's always really fun action, and I really enjoy it. I know a lot of people wanted them to stick with like a more horror theme, and it still seems like that horror theme is here. It's very gothic. It's very just like aesthetically dark, and I just really appreciate that. The bad guy looks fucking nuts. I originally thought this bad guy was the merchant, to be completely honest with you, but it seems like he's going to be the main baddie of the game, with a goal to get another, bioweapon out there of some sort. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. I was really skeptical of this game for the last few months with how tightly, like, in their pocket they left this game, where they didn't want to tell anybody anything. They were keeping us to speculate. It shows how much they care, and it shows they're trying to bring Resident Evil into a new light in a way, where they combine both fan bases' expectations together. And I'm here for it, man. I'm super here for it. I'm super excited. This trailer just looks really good. I really hope I don't get copyright struck from it, but it's whatever. I'm just really excited, and I know you guys are too, and that's why I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about this stuff, get the conversation going a little bit. Somebody just spit their teeth out. That's fucked up. But all in all, guys, let me know what you think of this. And, from here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the theories that I have about Leon. This is just a bold prediction. So, this isn't, I don't know anything. Obviously, I'm just like you guys. I don't know shit about where the story's going, but I can theorize. And my theory is that the big secret that Leon is holding is that he's infected, first off. And second off, I think the game is going to have a dynamic moment at the end where Leon sacrifices himself and kind of becomes almost like a boss character that Grace has to kind of stop being a pussy and finally, like, use her strength and just be a strong character as a whole, be a strong protagonist. And she's going to have to kill Leon. And I think it's going to turn out that that's Leon's daughter. I think you're playing as Leon's daughter and you're playing as Grace's father throughout the whole game. I think the dynamic is going to be to kill Leon at the end of the game. I think he's going to make a big sacrifice because they keep talking about how much of a sacrifice he'll make for others. I think he'll do it. I think this might be the end of the road for our boy. And I think for good reason. I know Leon sells games, but this game was going to sell either way, whether Leon was in it or not. The trailer definitely pushed it even farther. But if you're a fan of the game, there's a lot of Resident Evil fans, and they're going to buy this game regardless if he's in it or not. And I think this is a good time to start killing off the old characters. If we are getting into the realm of them being old, we're going to expect them to die off eventually to make big moments in the story. And I think Leon is the first of the big ones to die because he is the coolest. So why not, right? Like, why not have that happen? I hope it doesn't happen. I hope, I think we all hope that Leon becomes like a Hunnigan type of character, where he's kind of always on the radio with you. And I still think that's possible. I do, but you get to a point where how many times can you be infected by something before you finally just die? And this looks like this is the coolest type of Leon we've ever had. And if that's the case, I feel like he's going to go out on a huge high. And I'm really excited to find out what it is, like what the reason is for him being in the game specifically. Like, is it to sell copies, or is it because there's something big story wise they want to do with him? I'm very excited to figure that out. And like, are any other Resident Evil characters going to show up? Like, is Chris showing up? Because he's showed up in the last couple games. Is Jill going to be here? We haven't seen Jill and Leon in a game together. That would be cool. What about Claire? You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I'm very excited, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear what you guys think. I do think that there's some crazy shit going to be happening in this game. I really do. I think this game's going to have huge implications on the entire series. This game is called Requiem. So, if you know what that means, you know what that means. So I do see some people talk about how if you turn Requiem upside down, it spells Leon, but it really doesn't because it's a Q and not an O. So you're dumb. But I get it. I can see why people might be so excited that they would stretch and look at it like that. I mean, you spell dog upside down, it says God. You know what I mean? Like, you spell race car backwards and it's race car. What does that mean? It's just, people are just kind of speculating at this point. And I'm trying to keep my excitement down. I really am. But like, this game comes out in literally like 2.5 months, and I'm super fucking excited to play this. But all in all, thank you guys for watching this. Thank you for listening to me yap. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something about the game, at least a little bit. Really quick, I did want to say shout out to the new subscribers. Shout out to everybody who likes the videos and stuff. I appreciate you. You keep me going. If you're interested in watching my full playthroughs I'm going to be doing, I'm doing all the main Resident Evil games. I'll probably start with the Leon games, to be honest, but I don't know. Maybe I'll start with 1, go to 2, 3, 4, 5, all that stuff. I want to play all the main games, though, leading up to Resident Evil 9 in February. So if you're interested in that, I'll be posting those on the YouTube channel in segments. I will also be streaming on Twitch TV /bronze_sausage. So if you're interested in just watching live, feel free and stop in, say, hey, what's up? Other than that, though, guys, that's really all I got for you today. I can't wait for this game, And I'm sure you guys are feeling the exact same way. So love you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.